Long before any human eyes looked up at the moon, the night sky already had stories to tell. There were no cities glowing beneath it, no roads stretching across the land, no windows lit by quiet rooms, no satellites moving like tiny sparks from horizon to horizon. There was only an ancient Earth, turning slowly beneath a sky untouched by human names. Forests breathed in the darkness. Oceans moved under the pull of a moon no creature understood. Warm winds passed over ferns, rivers, volcanic plains, and sleeping animals. And above it all, the moon was already there, pale, silent, familiar, even before there was anyone to call it familiar. It rose over ancient seas. It crossed over dark continents. It shone above the backs of creatures that would never leave a word behind. For countless nights, it must have looked calm, a soft white presence in the sky, a quiet companion to a young and restless world. Yet the moon was never as still as it seemed. Its face was already marked by impacts. Its surface already carried the memory of falling stones. And on one night, somewhere deep in Earth's past, something may have happened there that briefly changed the sky. A small object, invisible from Earth, crossed the darkness. It was not alive. It was not guided. It was only stone, metal, speed, and gravity. For a long time, it had wandered through space as part of the ancient debris of the solar system. Then, its path met the moon. There was no warning. No sound traveled ahead of it. No atmosphere slowed it into a long, burning trail. The moon has no thick blanket of air to soften such arrivals. So the object struck directly. In a single moment, quiet stone became light. The lunar surface was crushed, heated, lifted, and broken. Dust leapt upward. Rock melted. Fragments flew outward in all directions. A new wound opened on the moon. From Earth, if anything had been watching, the impact may have appeared as a sudden flash on the lunar face, a brief point of brightness, a silent spark in the night. Not lightning, not a star, not fire in the clouds, but the moon itself, shining for a moment from violence. There would have been no thunder after it, no rolling sound across the sky, no trembling air. Space carried the light, but not the noise, and so the ancient Earth would have remained strangely peaceful beneath it. The oceans would still have moved. The forests would still have stirred. The animals would still have breathed in the dark. But high above them, on the moon, the surface had changed forever. A scar had been carved into another world, and that scar would not quickly fade. On Earth, almost everything is slowly erased. Rain softens stone. Wind carries dust away. Rivers cut and reshape the land. Oceans swallow coastlines. Plants cover broken ground. Continents drift. Volcanoes bury the old beneath the new. But the moon is different. The moon remembers. It has no rain to wash its wounds away. No rivers to smooth the edges. No forests to hide the broken places. No restless plates constantly recycling the surface into the deep. What happens there can remain there for millions of years, sometimes for billions. That is why the moon is more than a light in the sky. It is a quiet archive, a pale record of impacts, fragments, ancient motion, and time. And one of its most striking records is still visible to us. When the moon is full and the night is clear, there is a bright scar in the southern part of its face. From that scar, long white rays stretch outward across the lunar surface. They reach across older craters and darker plains. They look almost delicate from Earth, but they were born from force. That bright scar is called Tycho. It is not the largest crater on the moon. It is not the oldest. But it is one of the most beautiful and one of the most haunting. Because Tycho is young enough that its rays still shine. Young, of course, only in the language of the moon. To us, it is ancient. Older than every city. Older than every human story. Possibly old enough to have shone above a world of dinosaurs, warm seas, and forests without flowers as we know them today. But on the moon, where change is slow and weather is almost absent, even a wound from deep time can still look fresh. And Tycho is not only a crater, it is the frozen shape of an explosion. It is the place where a falling object turned the lunar ground into heat, motion, and flying stone. It is a reminder that the moon is not simply watching Earth from afar. It has its own history, its own violence, its own silence. And yet this is only part of the story. Because when Tycho was formed, the moon did not keep every fragment close to home. Some pieces fell back nearby. Some traveled across the lunar surface. Some may have flown so fast that the moon could no longer hold them. And if that happened, then the story did not end on the moon. It crossed the darkness between worlds. It moved toward Earth. It entered the sky of our planet as fire. And that leads us to the quiet mystery at the heart of this journey. When the moon was struck, did Earth feel it? Not as an earthquake, not as a disaster, but as a soft rain of ancient lunar fragments falling through the night. To understand why that is possible, we must travel closer to the moon. We must leave behind the peaceful view from Earth. We must drift toward the bright scar called Tycho. And we must look at the moon not as a symbol of calm, but as a world that remembers everything. From far away, the moon looks smooth. Its light blends the rough places together. The mountains, valleys, craters, and broken plains all dissolve into one soft silver glow. To the tired eye, it seems almost perfect. A calm circle above the dark edge of the world. But distance is gentle. Distance hides the damage. As we drift closer, the moon begins to change. The smooth face becomes a field of rings. The pale glow becomes a surface of dust, ridges, shadows, and scars. The familiar nightlight becomes a silent world of impact. Everywhere there are craters. Small craters inside larger craters. Old craters softened by time. Fresh craters with sharp rims and bright material around them. Some are simple bowls. Some are wide basins with mountains rising from their centers. Some are so old that later impacts have nearly erased their outlines. Others are young enough that they still seem to shine. This is the first thing the moon teaches us. The solar system was not always calm. It was built from motion. Dust became stones. Stones became worlds. Worlds crossed paths. Fragments collided, shattered, merged, and scattered again. The quiet order we see now came after a long age of impact, and the moon still carries that history on its face. On Earth, most of that ancient record is gone. Our planet is restless. It folds its crust. It opens oceans. It raises mountains. It buries old landscapes beneath younger ones. Even when something enormous strikes Earth, the planet slowly begins to cover the evidence. Rain falls into the crater. Rivers bring sediment. Plants return. Wind softens the edges. The ground shifts. The scar becomes a lake, a valley, a buried structure, or a memory hidden under layers of stone. Earth heals by changing. The moon preserves by staying still. This does not mean the moon is completely frozen. It still moves through space. It still feels the pull of Earth. Its surface still warms under sunlight and cools under darkness. Tiny particles from the solar wind still touch its dust. Small meteoroids still strike it. But compared with Earth, the moon is quiet enough to remember. It is like an old page left in a sealed room. No rain has blurred the ink. No roots have torn the paper. No ocean has washed it away. And when we look at the moon, we are reading that page from far below. The brighter craters are the newer sentences. The darker basins are older chapters. The rays are lines drawn by flying debris. The shadows are punctuation marks in stone. The whole moon is a manuscript of collision. And among all those written marks, Tycho draws the eye. It sits in the southern highlands, surrounded by older, rougher terrain. From Earth, it appears as a bright point with long rays reaching outward. Those rays are one reason Tycho feels so alive in the telescope. They do not stay close to the crater. They stretch across the lunar surface for great distances. They cross other features as if they were laid down after much of the surrounding landscape was already there. And that is exactly what they are. They are the scattered remains of an event younger than much of the terrain around it. A late mark written across an older page. If the moon is an archive, Tycho is a fresh line of ink. Not fresh in human time. Not fresh in the way a footprint in wet sand is fresh, but fresh in lunar time. Fresh enough that the material thrown from the impact has not yet darkened completely under the constant weathering of space. Fresh enough that we can still trace the direction of the blast with our eyes. Fresh enough to make us wonder what that moment was like. To imagine Tycho forming, we must slow the scene down. We must forget the stillness of the crater as it appears today. We must return to the instant before it existed. The moon's surface is lying silent beneath a black sky. There is no breeze moving across the dust, no sound in the air, because there is no real air to carry it. The sun may be shining with sharp, unsoftened light, or the surface may be resting in the long darkness of lunar night. Either way, the landscape waits, without knowing it is waiting. Then, from space, an object approaches. Against the blackness, it may be impossible to see. It is small compared with the moon. But small does not mean gentle. In space, speed is a kind of power. A stone only a few kilometers wide can carry more energy than human imagination easily holds. It does not need engines. It does not need intention. Gravity and motion are enough. The object falls toward the moon. There is no atmosphere to announce it. No glowing trail across a blue sky. No gradual slowing. No warning thunder. Only the final approach. And then contact. For a fraction of a second, the surface resists. Then it fails. Rock that had rested for ages is suddenly compressed beyond its strength. The ground is driven downward. The incoming object is destroyed. Its energy spreads into the lunar crust. Stone turns hot. Dust erupts. Fragments are launched outward. A cavity opens, and the moon receives a new scar. But this is only the beginning of the crater's shape. After the first strike, the ground continues to move. The forming walls begin to collapse. Material slides inward. The floor rebounds upward. Rock from deeper below is lifted toward the center. For a brief moment, the lunar surface behaves less like solid stone and more like a disturbed liquid. It is not truly water, of course. It is rock. It is broken, melted, shocked, and moving under forces far beyond ordinary experience. But the shape can remind us of a drop falling into a pond. The surface is pushed down. The edges rise. Then the center rebounds. On the moon, that rebound can become a mountain. That is why some large craters have central peaks. They are not volcanoes. They are not mountains built slowly over millions of years. They are the upward answer of a wounded surface. A stone memory of the moment after impact. In Tycho, that central peak rises from the floor like a quiet monument. From above, it seems still, but its very presence tells us that the crater was born in motion. Downward force. Outward blast. Inward collapse. Upward rebound. A violent sequence, now frozen into silence. Around the crater, molten material would have pooled and cooled. Some of it may have flowed across the floor. Some may have splashed against rising rock. Some may have formed glassy fragments as it cooled from intense heat. And far beyond the rim, debris would have continued to fall. Bits of the moon, lifted by the impact, returned to the surface in long arcs. They struck distant ground. They dusted older landscapes. They created the bright rays we still see from Earth. Each ray is not a beam of light. It is material. It is ground from one place, thrown across another. It is the visible path of an explosion. And yet this is only part of the story, because some pieces may not have come back down to the moon. Some may have climbed too high. Some may have moved too fast. Some may have escaped the moon's weaker gravity and entered the space between the moon and Earth. That quiet possibility changes the scale of everything. Tycho is no longer only a crater. It becomes a starting point, a place where fragments may have begun a journey from one world to another. And to understand that journey, we must follow the debris outward, away from the bright scar, away from the airless surface, into the dark, shared space where Earth's gravity waits. Into the dark, shared space where Earth's gravity waits. Between Earth and Moon, space looks empty. It is not filled with clouds. It is not crossed by rivers. It has no road that a fragment can follow. And yet, it is not nothing. It is shaped by gravity. Every point between the two worlds belongs to a quiet tug of war. The moon pulls. Earth pulls more strongly. The debris from an impact does not drift through perfect emptiness. It moves through invisible slopes in space. A fragment launched from Tycho may rise from the lunar surface, slow, curve, and fall back. Another may travel across the moon and strike a distant valley. Another may enter orbit for a time before returning. And a few, if they leave with enough speed and the right direction, may escape the moon's hold completely. Once that happens, Earth becomes the greater destination. Our planet is much larger. Its gravity reaches farther. It bends paths. It gathers wandering material. It turns drifting fragments into falling ones. This is not unusual in the deep history of worlds. Planets and moons are not sealed away from one another. They exchange dust. They exchange meteoroids. They exchange fragments blasted from their surfaces by impact. Pieces of Mars have landed on Earth. Pieces of the moon have landed on Earth. And somewhere in Earth's own lost past, pieces of our planet may have traveled outward as well. The solar system is not only a set of separate worlds, it is also a place of scattered messages. A stone can be struck from one world and delivered to another. A tiny piece of glass can become a traveler. A broken fragment can cross millions of years and still carry the signature of its origin. This is why the idea of Tycho reaching Earth feels so strange and so beautiful. The moon is not simply above us. It is close enough to touch our planet through gravity, tides, light, and perhaps, sometimes, falling stone. When we imagine debris leaving Tycho, we should not picture one great boulder falling like a mountain from the sky. The more likely story is quieter, a cloud of fragments, some large, many small, some glowing hot at first, then cooling in space, pieces of broken rock. Droplets of melted lunar material hardened into glass, grains of dust too small to see with the naked eye. Together, they would spread out along many paths. The moon would continue in its orbit. Earth would continue in its orbit. And between them, the debris would begin its crossing. The distance is vast in human terms, 380,000 kilometers, a journey longer than any road, longer than the diameter of Earth many times over. Yet for material moving at high speed through space, it is not unreachable. Hours may pass, days may pass, The fragments travel silently. There is no wind against them, no sound around them, no blue sky, only darkness, sunlight, shadow, and the pull of Earth growing stronger. Below, the ancient planet turns. Oceans rotate into night. Clouds curl over warm seas. Coastlines slide beneath the moon's pale light. Forests sleep. Animals breathe. And high above them, small pieces of the moon may be falling home. The word home is strange here. The moon is not Earth. It is its own world. But the moon was born from Earth's neighborhood. It has circled Earth for billions of years. It has pulled on our oceans since before any creature crawled onto land. It has kept company with our planet through every age of life. In that sense, a lunar fragment falling to Earth feels less like an invasion and more like a return. A message from the companion world. A small piece of the sky entering the world below. At first, the fragments would meet the upper atmosphere. That is where their silent journey would change. Space would give way to air. The first molecules would strike the falling stones. Friction would build. Heat would bloom. A fragment that had been cold and dark would begin to glow. From the ground, it might appear as a meteor. A streak of light moving across the ancient sky. Then another. Then another. Some would burn completely. They would vanish as light, leaving only microscopic dust. Some would break apart. Some would survive the passage and fall to the surface. If many fragments arrived over a short span of time, the night sky could have carried a soft, unusual meteor shower. Not a familiar shower from a comet trail. Not the yearly return of particles left along Earth's orbit, but a rain of lunar material. A rain born from a wound on the moon. Imagine that sky for a moment. The moon is still visible. On its surface, the new scar may glow faintly from heat that has not yet faded. Around it, the pale rays are not yet old. They are fresh deposits of broken ground. Below, Earth turns through night, and across that night, tiny lines of fire appear. Some bright, some faint, some so brief that they are gone before the eye can follow them. The fragments enter above oceans. They enter above forests. They enter above deserts that no human will ever name. They fall into shallow seas where future rocks are still forming. They settle into mud. They disappear into water. They become part of Earth's surface, just as Earth is always swallowing, mixing, burying, and transforming what reaches it. For the creatures alive then, if any looked up, the event would not have come with explanation. There would be no word for moon, no word for meteorite, no idea of impact ejecta or lunar geology, only light. A flash above, then falling sparks, then darkness again. The world would continue. Waves would move, leaves would shift, predators would hunt, small animals would hide. The moon would cross the sky as it always had. But something had passed between worlds. This is where the story becomes less about violence and more about connection. A crater on the moon may have written a sentence in Earth's atmosphere. A wound in one world may have become fire in another. A silent impact may have become a brief light show above ancient land. And yet, if this happened, where is the evidence now? Where is the layer of lunar dust? Where are the tiny pieces of Tycho hidden in Earth's rocks? Where is the message the moon may have sent? To answer that, we must remember what Earth does best. Earth changes. It does not preserve the way the moon preserves. It receives, absorbs, dissolves, buries, and remakes. A grain of lunar glass falling into the ocean does not remain on a clean shelf. It sinks. It mixes with sediment. It may be carried by currents. It may be buried beneath mud. It may become part of stone. Later, that stone may be lifted, folded, heated, eroded, or dragged into the deep. A fragment falling into a forest may become part of soil. Rain may move it. Roots may disturb it. Rivers may carry it away. A particle landing on exposed rock may survive for a while, only to be weathered, broken, or covered by younger material. Earth is not careless with memory. It simply remembers differently. The moon records by keeping its scars visible. Earth records by hiding them in layers. To read Earth's memory, we must dig. We must sample. We must compare chemistry. We must look for tiny grains in ancient sediments. We must ask whether a small piece of glass truly came from the moon, or from an impact on Earth, or from some other source in space. This is not an easy search. A global rain of fine material may sound dramatic, but after millions of years, the evidence can become almost invisible. A thin layer may be broken apart. It may be incomplete. It may exist only in certain places. It may be under the sea. It may have been subducted into Earth's interior. It may have been erased before anyone ever learned to look for it. And that makes the mystery softer, but deeper. The moon may have sent fragments to Earth. Earth may have received them, but Earth may have hidden the letter. This is one of the great differences between the two worlds. The moon is a cold archive above us. Earth is a living archive beneath us. One keeps the surface exposed. The other folds the surface into time. One shows its scars. The other turns scars into landscapes. So when scientists search for traces of lunar impacts on Earth, they are not simply searching for rocks. They are searching for a conversation between worlds. They are trying to reconstruct a path that began with a flash on the moon, crossed open space, entered the atmosphere, and ended as dust in ancient mud. And that leads us to an even more fascinating part of the story. Because some clues may not be hidden on Earth at all. Some may have been waiting on the moon, collected by human hands, sealed away for decades, carried home from a valley far from Tycho, and preserved until future science was ready to listen. There is something quietly moving about the rocks brought back from the moon. They are small enough to hold in a human hand. Some look plain at first. Gray, dusty, broken, unremarkable, almost. And yet each one has crossed a boundary that most things never cross. It formed on another world. It rested beneath another sky. It was touched by sunlight without air. It carried the silence of the moon inside it. Then, for a brief moment in history, human beings arrived. They walked across that silence. They bent down. They collected pieces of another world and carried them home. Those samples became more than souvenirs. They became time capsules. They became pages from the moon's archive. And some of those pages may contain clues from places far beyond where they were found. This is one of the strange beauties of lunar geology. On Earth, a rock often tells the story of the place beneath your feet. On the moon, a rock can tell the story of somewhere far away, because impacts scatter material. They launch fragments across the surface. They mix distant regions together. They carry glass, dust, and broken minerals from one crater to another landscape. A valley may hold pieces of a mountain it never touched. A plane may carry fragments from an impact beyond the horizon. A sample taken by an astronaut may contain a hidden message from a crater more than 2,000 kilometers away. And this is why Apollo 17 becomes part of our journey. Not because the astronauts landed at Tycho. They did not. They landed far away, in a valley called Taurus Littrow. It was a place of mountains, slopes, gray soil, and long shadows. A quiet valley on the moon, surrounded by highlands, and marked by ancient geological puzzles. The astronauts who walked there were not only explorers. They were gatherers of memory. They collected soil. They collected rocks. They drilled cores into the lunar ground. They sealed samples that would later be studied by scientists on Earth. Some of those samples were examined quickly. Others were saved. carefully stored, protected from contamination. Left unopened for decades because NASA understood something wise and patient. Future science would be better. Future instruments would see more. Future researchers would ask questions that had not yet been imagined. So some lunar material waited. It waited through changing generations. It waited through new telescopes, new missions, new computers, and new methods. It waited while Earth spun through millions of ordinary nights under the same moon. And then, long after the astronauts had returned, scientists began to look again. They looked not only at what the samples were, they looked at where the fragments may have come from. They studied tiny pieces of glass and rock. They compared chemistry. They searched for signs of impact melt. They asked whether material found far from Tycho might have been thrown there by the event that made Tycho itself. This is a gentle kind of detective story. There is no single dramatic clue that solves everything at once. There are only fragments, shapes, textures, minerals, ages, layers, possibilities. One piece suggests heat. Another suggests violent motion. Another suggests that a landslide may have been triggered by distant debris falling across the lunar surface. The moon does not explain itself in words. It asks to be read slowly. And the deeper we look, the stranger things become. A crater is not only the place where something hit, it can become the beginning of many later events. Material flies outward. It lands on slopes. It shakes loose unstable ground. It creates small secondary impacts. It lays down bright rays. It sends glassy droplets into places that were quiet before. A single collision can write across an entire world. At Taurus Littrow, far from Tycho, scientists have studied a bright deposit known as the light mantle. It appears like a pale streak across the valley floor. For a long time, it raised questions. How did so much material travel so far across the lunar landscape? What caused it to move? Why did it spread in such an unusual way? Some evidence suggests that a landslide took place there, a great movement of lunar material sliding down from a mountain slope and spreading across the valley. But on the moon, even a landslide is not exactly like one on Earth. There is no rain soaking the ground, no thick atmosphere, no flowing water. The dust is dry. The gravity is weaker. The motion is different. Rocks grinding against one another can coat themselves in fine powder. That powder can act almost like a lubricant. Huge masses of debris can move farther than we might expect. And perhaps, in some reconstructions, distant impact material from Tycho may have played a role in triggering the collapse. If so, then Tycho's story reaches far beyond its rim. It reaches across the moon. It touches a valley where humans would one day stand. It hides inside samples carried back to Earth. It waits in laboratories. It asks patient questions. When did the impact happen? How far did the debris travel? Did some of it fall back onto the moon? Did some of it escape into space? Did some of it reach Earth? These are not questions with simple, final answers, and that is part of what makes them beautiful. Science is often imagined as a collection of facts. But much of science is a careful relationship with uncertainty. It is the art of saying what we know, what we suspect, what remains open, what must be tested again. The story of Tycho is not finished. Its bright rays are visible. Its crater is real. Its violence is written into the moon. But some of its consequences remain hidden. Some may be buried in lunar soil. Some may be sealed in sample containers. Some may be lost in Earth's ancient sediments. And some may be waiting for a future mission to climb its slopes, study its central peak, and read the crater more directly. In this way, the moon teaches patience. It does not rush. It does not change its story for us. It simply holds the evidence. Year after year, night after night, century after century. We are the ones who must learn how to read it. And as we read, Another truth begins to appear. Tycho may be dramatic because it is bright. It may draw our eyes because its rays spread across the full moon. But Tycho is only one scar among many. One sentence in a much older book. The moon has been struck again and again. From the earliest days of the solar system to the present age, it has received fragments from space. Some impacts were small. Some were enormous. Some created simple pits. Some excavated basins so wide that they changed the face of the moon forever. And through all of this, Earth was nearby. Always nearby. Turning blue and white in the lunar sky. Pulling on the moon. Being pulled in return. Sharing a history that neither world can fully tell alone. This is why the story cannot remain only at Tycho. The crater is a doorway. It lets us enter a deeper idea. The moon above us is not just a place where impacts happened. It is a place where Earth's lost impact history may still be visible. Because Earth was struck too, many times. By asteroids, by comets, by smaller fragments, by the leftover debris of planetary formation. But Earth hides its wounds. It hides them under forests, under oceans, under cities, under younger stone, under the restless motion of a living planet. The moon hides almost nothing. It is exposed. It is quiet. It keeps the old marks in view. And so, when we look at the moon, we may be seeing more than lunar history. We may be seeing a reflection of what happened to Earth as well. The same region of space, the same era of debris, the same storms of falling rock. The moon was struck, and the record stayed. Earth was struck, and the record changed shape. To understand Earth's forgotten past, we often have to look upward. We have to study the world that did not erase its pages. We have to let the moon remind us of what our own planet has hidden. And that leads us gently into a wider thought. Perhaps the moon is not only Earth's companion, perhaps it is Earth's memory in the sky. To understand that idea, we have to return for a moment to Earth. Not the Earth of maps and borders. Not the Earth of weather forecasts, cities, and familiar coastlines. But Earth as a restless planet. A world that is always moving. Always reshaping itself. Always changing the evidence left on its own surface. From space, Earth looks gentle. Blue oceans, white clouds, brown continents. A thin glow of atmosphere wrapped around everything like a breath. It looks whole. It looks calm. But beneath that calm appearance, Earth is never still. The crust bends and breaks. Plates slide slowly across the mantle. Ocean floors are born at ridges and vanish into trenches. Mountains rise from collision. Volcanoes open windows into the deep. Rain falls. Rivers cut. Glaciers grind. Winds carry dust from one continent to another. Life grows over almost everything it can reach. Earth is beautiful because it changes. But that same beauty makes it difficult for Earth to remember. A crater on Earth is not safe. It is not left alone beneath an airless sky. It is attacked gently by time. Rain fills it. Sediment covers it. Plants root into it. Ice scrapes it. Rivers cross it. The edges soften. The floor becomes a lake, a plain, a forest, or a buried layer of stone. Given enough time, even a great wound can disappear from sight. This does not mean the wound never happened. It only means Earth has folded it into itself. Earth's memory is not always visible. It is hidden, compressed, altered, buried beneath younger stories. The moon remembers differently. The moon does not heal in the same way. It does not grow forests across its craters. It does not pour rivers through its basins. It does not cover its wounds with soil full of roots. It simply keeps them. A crater forms. The ejecta falls. The dust settles. Then the scar remains under the black sky. Sunrise after sunrise. Lunar night after lunar night. Million years after million years. This is why looking at the moon can feel like looking backward. Not backward by a few centuries, not backward to the first cities, not even backward to the first animals, but backward into the deep architecture of the solar system. The moon's surface is a record of falling objects from ages when the inner solar system was more crowded with debris. Some of those objects struck the moon. Some struck Earth. Some struck both worlds in the same long eras of bombardment. But the moon kept the marks. Earth mostly erased them. So when we study lunar craters, we are not only asking what happened to the moon, we are asking what kind of environment Earth lived through. We are asking what fell through this region of space. We are asking what our own planet may have endured before it became the blue world we know. This is where the moon becomes more than scenery. It becomes testimony. It quietly tells us that Earth was not protected from cosmic history. Earth was part of it. Our planet moved through the same debris fields. It shared the same ancient neighborhood. It was struck, warmed, broken, and reshaped again and again. And yet, because Earth is alive with geology, many of those marks are gone. The moon, by contrast, is like a witness who never left the scene. It watched the storms of stone. It received them. It recorded them. And then it remained. There is a peaceful sadness in that thought. The moon is beautiful, partly because it is wounded. Its familiar face is made from old impacts. Its light reaches us softened by distance. But the surface that reflects that light is rough, battered, and ancient. The very thing that helps us feel calm at night is covered in evidence of violence. But there is no contradiction there. The universe often works this way. Calm is sometimes the final shape of chaos. A star forms from collapsing gas. A planet forms from colliding dust and rock. An ocean fills a basin made by fire and impact. A quiet moon rises over Earth, carrying scars from a past too old for memory. And beneath that moon, Earth continues changing. Imagine a large impact on Earth hundreds of millions of years ago. At first, the crater is sharp. The rock is fractured. The surrounding ground is thrown outward. Dust enters the atmosphere. Heat spreads. The event is dramatic, local, perhaps even global if the object is large enough. But then the long work of Earth begins. Rain falls into the depression. A lake forms. Rivers bring sand and silt. Plants settle around the edges. Animals walk across the new landscape without knowing its origin. More layers gather. The crater floor sinks under sediment. Later, the region may lift. It may erode. It may split. It may be carried by plate motion into a different climate, a different ocean, a different world. After enough time, only subtle clues remain. A circular gravity anomaly. Shocked minerals. A hidden ring beneath rock. A strange layer in a cliff. A chemical signal in sediment. Earth does not display the wound. It transforms it into a puzzle. The moon displays the wound. It lets us see the shape directly. This difference changes the way we tell the story of our planetary past. If we only looked at Earth, we might think the early solar system was gentler than it was. We might underestimate the number of impacts. We might miss the scale of the debris that once moved through our region of space. But when we look at the moon, the illusion fades. The moon says, quietly, that impacts were everywhere. The moon says that falling stone was part of how worlds became worlds. The moon says that Earth's calm blue surface has a much older and rougher history beneath it. And that makes Tycho more meaningful. Tycho is not only a bright crater. It is a reminder of a process that shaped both worlds. It is a visible scar in a system where Earth has hidden many of its own. It is one small part of a much larger relationship. The relationship between a changing planet and a preserving moon. One forgets by transforming. One remembers by remaining. And between them, fragments may pass. Light passes. Gravity passes. Tides pass. Dust may pass. Stone may pass. History passes in ways that are quiet, patient, and difficult to see. This is why the question of lunar fragments falling to Earth feels so poetic. It is not only about material, it is about memory returning. A piece of the moon, blasted from a crater, crossing space and entering Earth's atmosphere, is like a small piece of the archive coming down from the shelf. For a moment, the distant record becomes close. The sky writes in fire. Then Earth receives the message and begins to hide it. Perhaps in ocean mud, perhaps in ancient sediments, perhaps in grains so small that only careful instruments can recognize them. Perhaps somewhere we have not yet looked. The message may be faint. It may be broken. It may be incomplete. But the idea itself is enough to deepen the night sky. The moon above us is not separate from Earth. It is part of Earth's story. It has shaped our tides. It has lit our nights. It has slowed our planet's rotation over immense stretches of time. It has watched life rise from oceans, move across land, and finally look back upward. And it has preserved a record of impacts that our own planet could not keep in plain sight. The more we understand this, the more the moon changes in our imagination. It is no longer just a disk, no longer just a phase on a calendar, no longer just a pale companion for poets, travelers, and tides. It becomes a witness to the violence that built quiet worlds, a witness to ancient stones crossing the dark, a witness to the long friendship between Earth and its only natural satellite. But the universe has another surprise waiting. Because if the moon remembers Earth's lost history, we must ask where the moon itself came from. Was it always there? Did it simply form beside Earth like a smaller sibling? Or was the moon born from an event even greater than Tycho? To follow that question, we must travel much farther back, past the age of dinosaurs, past the first forests, past the first oceans, past even the young Earth's earliest stable crust. We must go back to a time when Earth itself was still becoming Earth, a time of heat, collision, and molten light, a time before the moon, a time when another world may have crossed our planet's path. To imagine that ancient time, we have to remove almost everything familiar about Earth. There are no blue oceans yet in the way we know them. No green continents, no forests, no animals, no quiet beaches under moonlight. Even the moon is absent. The night sky is different, because there is no moon to rise. Earth is young, hot, unsettled, still carrying the heat of its own formation. Its surface may glow in places with molten rock. Its atmosphere is unlike the one we breathe now. Its crust is fragile, broken, and remade again and again. The young solar system is not yet the calm, ordered clockwork we often imagine. It is crowded with leftover bodies, fragments of formation, embryo worlds, rocky objects that almost became planets, or were broken before they could. Gravity is still sorting the debris. Orbits are still changing. Worlds are still colliding. In this early age, Earth is not yet the peaceful home we know. It is a growing planet in a dangerous neighborhood. And somewhere nearby, according to the leading idea for the moon's birth, there may have been another world. A body often called Theia. Not a tiny asteroid, not a passing pebble, but a planetary body, perhaps roughly the size of Mars. Large enough to have its own history, large enough to be a world in its own right. For a time, Earth and Theia may have shared the inner solar system. They may have moved around the young sun in paths that were not perfectly safe forever. Gravity is patient. Small differences build over time. A near pass can become a closer pass. A stable path can become unstable. And eventually, in this ancient story, Theia crossed Earth's path. The collision that followed would have been far beyond anything Tycho could represent. Tycho was a wound on the moon. Theia was a world striking a world. Imagine young Earth turning beneath a sky full of debris. Then another planetary body approaches. It does not fall like a stone into a pond. It arrives as a world with mass, motion, and enormous energy. The impact is not a simple crash. It is an event that changes both bodies. Rock melts, metal shifts, mantles are disturbed, material is launched into orbit. Part of Theia may merge with Earth. Part of Earth may be thrown outward. The young planet becomes surrounded by a glowing disk of debris, not a calm ring like jewelry, but a hot, chaotic cloud of vapor, melt, droplets, and broken rock. For a time, Earth may have worn its own wound around it. A ring of aftermath. A halo made from collision. And from that material, slowly, the moon began to form. Small pieces gathered. Fragments collided. Droplets cooled. Gravity pulled scattered material together. What had been debris became a body. What had been violence became a companion. The moon was not placed gently beside Earth. It was born from an event of heat and impact. It began as the memory of a collision. This is why the story of Tycho feels connected to something much older. The moon was born from impact. Then, across billions of years, it was shaped by impact. And in rare moments, its own impacts may have sent fragments back toward Earth. The relationship is circular in a quiet, cosmic way. Earth helped create the moon. The moon preserved the record of falling stones. Then pieces of the moon may have returned to Earth as messengers of later collisions. Worlds do not exist as isolated islands. They are connected by gravity, by origin, by exchanged material, and by time. Theia's collision is difficult to imagine because nothing like it has happened in human history. We know storms. We know earthquakes. We know volcanic eruptions. We know the shock of smaller impacts. But a world-sized collision belongs to a scale beyond ordinary experience. It is not only destruction. It is creation through destruction. A planet is changed. A moon is born. A future sky is given its brightest companion. Without that ancient event, Earth's nights would be different. The tides would be different. The rhythm of our planet's rotation would be different. The stability of Earth's tilt may have followed a different path. Life itself might still have found a way, but the world it found would not have been quite this world. The moon became part of Earth's environment, not just above it, but woven into it. It pulled on the oceans. It marked time. It helped shape calendars long before calendars existed. It lit the night for animals, travelers, hunters, and dreamers. It became part of myth, memory, science, and sleep. And yet, before all of that, it was debris. Before the silver disk, there was fire. Before the calm companion, there was a collision. This thought changes the way we look at the moon. The moon is not only scarred, it is itself a scar that became a world. It is the surviving shape of an ancient impact. A piece of a story so old that Earth has changed almost beyond recognition since it happened. The ground beneath us has been recycled. The atmosphere has transformed. Oceans have formed. Continents have drifted. Life has emerged, vanished, returned, diversified, and finally become conscious enough to ask where the moon came from. But above us, the moon still carries the calm result of that first violence. It is like a lamp made from an old wound. And perhaps that is why it feels so powerful in the night sky. It is peaceful, but not simple. It is beautiful, but not untouched. It is familiar, but born from a time when Earth itself was almost alien. The deeper we look, the more the moon becomes a bridge. A bridge between destruction and creation, between early chaos and present calm, between the fiery beginning of Earth and the quiet night outside our windows, between the ancient impact that made the moon and the later impacts that marked it. Tycho is one bright mark in that long story. Theia is the beginning of the story. And Earth is the world that lives beneath the moon's light, changed by both. If Theia had never struck, there may have been no moon like ours. If there had been no moon, there would have been no Tycho shining in the southern highlands. No bright rays visible during the full moon. No possibility of lunar fragments from that crater crossing the distance back to Earth. The story folds into itself. A collision creates the moon. A later collision scars the moon. The scar may send pieces toward Earth. Earth receives them, hides them, and continues to change. And through all of this, the moon remains above us, steady enough to make the story visible. There is comfort in this long continuity. Even violent beginnings can become quiet companions. Even shattered material can gather into a world. Even scars can become light. And even the most ancient events can still touch the present, not with fear, but with perspective. When we look up tonight, we are not seeing a random object in the sky. We are seeing the result of planetary history. We are seeing the calm after collision. We are seeing a world that came from Earth's deep past and has never truly left it. But the universe has another surprise waiting. Because the moon did not only change the way Earth looked at night, it changed Earth itself, quietly, slowly, across billions of years, not through one dramatic moment, but through a constant pull. A pull on the oceans, a pull on the planet's rotation, a pull that turned time itself into something different. To understand the full meaning of the moon, we must move from impact to rhythm, from scars to tides, from the violence that formed the moon to the gentle force it still applies every day, from the violence that formed the moon to the gentle force it still applies every day. The moon does not need to strike Earth to change it. It changes Earth by being there, quietly, constantly, patiently. Every moment, the moon pulls on our planet. Its gravity reaches across the distance and touches the oceans, the crust, and the rhythm of Earth's rotation. We do not usually feel this pull directly. It does not arrive like a storm. It does not shake the ground beneath our feet. It does not announce itself with light. But it is always present. A soft, invisible connection between two worlds. The clearest place to see that connection is the ocean. Stand beside the sea, and the moon's influence is no longer only an idea. It becomes movement. The water rises. The water falls. Shorelines appear and disappear. Tidal flats breathe in and out. Harbors change depth. Waves reach farther up the beach, then slowly retreat. This daily motion feels familiar to us, almost ordinary. But it is one of the most beautiful signs that Earth and moon are not separate. They are joined by gravity. The moon pulls more strongly on the side of Earth facing it. It pulls a little less strongly on the far side. The result is a stretching of the oceans into tidal bulges. As Earth rotates beneath these bulges, coastlines pass through high tide and low tide. The sea seems to breathe. And in that breathing, the moon leaves its signature on Earth. Long before humans understood gravity, tides were already happening. Long before anyone wrote the word moon, the oceans were answering its pull. Before ships. Before calendars. Before firelight on beaches. Before footprints in wet sand. The ocean was rising and falling under the influence of a companion born from ancient impact. This is where the moon's story becomes gentler. The same object that carries scars from violence also creates one of Earth's slowest and most soothing rhythms. A tide is not a wound. It is not an explosion. It is a pulse, a repeated gesture between worlds. The moon lifts the sea. Earth turns. The sea responds. Again and again. For billions of years. When the moon was younger, it was closer to Earth. Its pull would have been stronger. The tides would have been larger. The oceans, if they were present, would have moved with greater force. Coasts would have changed more dramatically. Shallow waters may have flooded and drained in powerful cycles. Pools near shore may have filled, warmed, concentrated minerals, then emptied again. We must speak carefully here. The moon did not simply create life. The origin of life is one of the deepest questions in science. It has many possible paths, many unknowns. many environments that may have mattered. Hydrothermal vents, tidal pools, mineral surfaces, chemical gradients, lightning, impacts, time. But the moon may have helped shape some of the conditions in which early chemistry unfolded. Its tides may have stirred the edges of ancient oceans. They may have mixed water and minerals. They may have created cycles of wet and dry. They may have helped make Earth a planet of rhythms. And life, when it finally appeared, would grow within those rhythms. Day and night, tide and stillness, season and return. The moon was not a distant decoration. It was part of the environment, part of the background pattern of Earth, part of the world that life inherited. And the moon did something else, something even slower. It helped change the length of a day. Today, one full turn of Earth gives us about 24 hours. That feels natural to us. A day seems like something fixed. Morning, afternoon, evening, night. The familiar cycle by which we measure work, sleep, hunger, memory, and time. But Earth's day has not always been this length. Long ago, the planet spun faster. A day may have been much shorter. The young Earth turned with greater speed, carrying sunrise and sunset around the planet in a quicker rhythm. The moon helped slow that rotation. Not suddenly, not in a single age, but gradually through tides. The tidal bulges raised by the moon do not line up perfectly and passively. Earth rotates, oceans move, friction acts, energy is exchanged. Over immense time, Earth's rotation slows, and the moon slowly moves farther away. This is one of the most graceful exchanges in planetary science. Earth gives a little of its rotational energy to the moon's orbit. The day lengthens. The moon recedes. The dance changes, but it does not break. Even now, the moon is slowly drifting away from Earth, only a few centimeters each year. A tiny distance in daily life, less than the width of a hand. Almost nothing. And yet, over millions and billions of years, almost nothing becomes something enormous. This is the language of astronomy. Small changes, long times, quiet forces, great consequences. A few centimeters each year becomes a different sky in the deep future. A slight slowing of rotation becomes the difference between ancient short days and the 24-hour rhythm we know. The moon teaches us that not all powerful things are sudden. Some of the most important changes in the universe happen slowly enough to seem like stillness. A mountain rises grain by grain. A star ages by fusing atoms. A planet cools over eons. A moon moves away by centimeters. A day grows longer across time, so vast that no single life can witness it. And yet the result is everywhere. It is in our clocks. It is in our sleep. It is in the way we imagine morning and night. It is in the rhythm of every creature that evolved beneath this sky. The moon has not only marked time, it has helped make time feel the way it does on Earth. There is another part of this slow influence. The moon may help stabilize Earth's axial tilt. Earth does not stand upright in space. It leans. That lean gives us seasons. It changes the angle of sunlight. It shifts warmth between hemispheres. It lets winter and summer trade places across the year. The moon's gravitational influence helps keep that tilt from wandering too wildly over long periods. Without a large moon, Earth's tilt might have changed more chaotically over geological time. The seasons could have been less stable. The climate might have experienced stronger swings. Again, we must be careful. The moon is not the only thing that makes Earth habitable. A planet's climate depends on atmosphere, oceans, distance from the sun, geology, chemistry, and much more. But the moon is part of the story. A quiet, stabilizing presence. A companion whose gravity helped Earth maintain a more steady rhythm. It is strange to think that the same moon whose surface is covered in scars may have helped give Earth a measure of steadiness. A scarred world above a living one. A silent archive helping shape a dynamic planet. A body born from collision, then becoming a source of rhythm, tide, and balance. This is why the moon feels almost paradoxical. It came from violence. It was marked by violence. It may have sent fragments back to Earth through violence. And yet, over time, it became one of the gentlest influences in our sky. It pulls the oceans. It slows the day. It steadies the seasons. It lights the night. It gives Earth a second heartbeat. Imagine Earth without that heartbeat. The night sky darker. The tides weaker. The day perhaps different. The tilt perhaps less steady. The stories of animals, oceans, climate, and human imagination unfolding beneath a changed sky. It would still be Earth, perhaps, but not Earth as we know it. Not the same rhythm, not the same night, not the same companion rising over water. The moon is so familiar that we often forget how unusual it is. Many planets have moons. Some have dozens. Some moons are icy. Some are volcanic. Some hide oceans beneath frozen crusts. Some are captured objects. Some are broken fragments. But Earth's moon is large compared with its planet. Large enough to dominate our night. Large enough to raise strong tides. Large enough to matter in the long-term motion of Earth. It is not merely a small stone circling us. It is a partner in the architecture of our world. And perhaps that is why humans have always noticed it. Before science explained its origin, people watched its phases. They followed its cycle. They planted by it. They traveled by it. They told stories about it. They saw faces, animals, gods, spirits, omens, calendars, and dreams in its changing light. The moon entered culture because it had already entered nature. It was already shaping tides before it shaped myths. It was already slowing Earth before it marked human months. It was already stabilizing the sky before anyone looked up and wondered what it was. Science does not remove that wonder. It deepens it. When we learn that the moon was born from impact, the moonlight becomes older. When we learn that its craters preserve ancient violence, its surface becomes more meaningful. When we learn that its gravity moves the ocean, the tide becomes a conversation. When we learn that it is slowly moving away, each full moon becomes a moment in a changing relationship. Nothing is less beautiful because we understand it. The understanding simply gives the beauty more layers. So now, when we return in our imagination to Tycho, we do not see only a crater. We see it on a moon born from a greater collision. We see it on a moon that pulls Earth's seas. We see it on a moon that helps stretch our days. We see it on a moon that may have steadied the tilt beneath which life evolved. And we see it as part of a world that has always been both distant and deeply connected. Yet this is only part of the story, because the moon is not finished changing. It may look ancient and still. It may seem like a completed object, a finished relic from the early solar system. But even now, small stones still fall from space. Even now, the lunar surface is being touched, chipped, darkened, brightened, and rewritten. The archive is old, but the writing has not stopped. The writing continues in the smallest ways. A grain of dust strikes the surface. A pebble arrives at high speed. A small meteoroid falls out of darkness and opens a fresh pit in the lunar soil. Most of these events are tiny. Too small to be seen from Earth with ordinary eyes. Too quiet to announce themselves. Too brief to become part of human memory. But on the moon, even small events matter. There is no thick atmosphere to burn every fragment away. There is no rain to soften the new mark. There is no wind to quickly cover it. A small impact can remain visible long after the moment itself has passed. The moon is not being reshaped by rivers or forests. It is being rewritten by falling dust and stone. Slowly, patiently, almost invisibly. If Tycho is a bright sentence written in force, then the smaller impacts are like faint marks in the margins, little additions to the archive. Tiny reminders that space is never completely empty. Even now, debris moves through the solar system. Some of it is ancient. Some of it is broken from asteroids. Some may come from comets. Some pieces are no larger than sand. Some are large enough to make a crater. They travel silently until their paths meet another world. On Earth, the atmosphere catches many of them. We see a meteor, a falling star, a brief line of light. Then it is gone. The air has taken the fragment and turned its motion into glow. But on the moon, the same kind of fragment can reach the ground. It can strike the dust directly. It can scatter bright material around a new crater. It can uncover fresher soil beneath the darker surface. It can leave behind a mark that spacecraft may later notice. This is one reason lunar orbiters are so valuable. They do not only photograph the moon as a finished place. They watch it change. They compare old images with new images. They find places where the surface looks different. A fresh crater. A new splash of bright ejecta. A small disturbance that was not there before. The changes are quiet, but they are real, and there is something calming about that thought. The moon is ancient, but not frozen. It is old, but not finished. It is still receiving the smallest messages from space. It is still answering them in dust. Imagine an orbiter moving above the lunar surface. Below it, the landscape passes in silence. Craters within craters. Ridges. Rays. Dark plains. Bright highlands. The spacecraft sees what human eyes from Earth cannot see. It notices details that would vanish into the moon's silver glow from far away. It returns again and again, image after image, orbit after orbit, year after year. And somewhere in those images, scientists find a change. A new crater, a fresh mark, a place where the moon was struck while we were alive. Not in the age of dinosaurs, not in the age of Theia, not in the deep past beyond imagination, but now, in the age of satellites, telescopes, and returning lunar exploration. This makes the moon feel closer. It is not only a relic of ancient violence, it is part of the present solar system. The same processes that shaped it long ago are still happening, only on smaller scales. A stone falls, dust rises, material spreads, a scar remains, the pattern continues. Of course, most new lunar impacts are not dramatic from Earth. They do not make the whole moon flash. They do not send global rays across the lunar face. They do not create a crater like Tycho, but they remind us that Tycho was not an exception in kind. It was an exception in scale. The moon has always been struck. It is still being struck. And it will continue to be struck as long as small debris moves through space. This is true not only for the moon. Every world is part of this quiet exchange. Mars is struck. Mercury is struck. Asteroids are struck. Icy moons far from the sun are struck. Even Earth is struck, though our atmosphere and geology change the story. Impact is not an interruption of cosmic history. Impact is one of the ways cosmic history is written. The moon simply lets us see the writing more clearly. When we imagine the future of the moon, we often imagine astronauts, footprints, habitats, rovers, telescopes built on the far side, people standing beneath a black sky, with Earth hanging above the horizon. And perhaps that future is coming. Human beings may return to the lunar surface. They may explore regions never visited before. They may climb crater walls. They may drill into old layers. They may sample places like Tycho more directly one day. If that happens, the moon's archive will open further. Not all at once, not completely, but page by page, layer by layer, sample by sample. A future astronaut standing near Tycho would see a landscape shaped by a moment older than humanity. The crater walls would rise around them. The central peak would stand in silence. The ground beneath their boots would contain fragments of impact, melt, dust, and time. They would be standing inside an event that had become a place. And perhaps they would look back toward Earth, a blue world in the black sky. The planet that changes too quickly to keep all of its scars visible. The planet that sent explorers to read the moon because the moon remembered what Earth could not. There is something deeply human in that. We leave the world that forgets. We travel to the world that remembers. We pick up stones. We bring them home. And then we try to understand what they are saying. But even without future astronauts, the moon continues speaking. It speaks through craters, through rays, through dust, through old samples, through new images, through the quiet motion of tides on Earth, through the lengthening of our days. Through the fact that each night, when the sky is clear, we can look up and see a world that has traveled with us since near the beginning. The moon is still changing, but it changes in a language almost too slow for daily life. A new crater here. A fresh dust pattern there. A few centimeters farther from Earth each year. A tiny shift in the long dance. Nothing seems urgent. Nothing seems loud. And yet the story moves. The moon recedes. Earth slows. Debris falls. Rays fade. Craters darken. New marks appear. The archive grows older and newer at the same time. This is one of the most peaceful lessons of astronomy. The universe does not need to hurry. It has time. It builds with time. It erases with time. It preserves with time. It changes everything, even when nothing appears to move. A quiet moon above a sleeping Earth may seem still for one human night, but across the deep scale of planetary history, that same moon is drifting, aging, recording, and responding. It is moving away from us, slowly, not in abandonment, not in loss we can feel from day to day, but as part of the same gravitational exchange that has shaped Earth and Moon for billions of years. Each year, the distance grows by a tiny amount. Each year, the relationship changes by almost nothing. But almost nothing, given enough time, becomes a new chapter. In the far future, the moon will appear slightly smaller in Earth's sky. The tides will be different. The length of day will continue to change. The familiar balance between Earth and Moon will keep evolving. No generation owns the moon exactly as it is. We meet it for a moment in its long journey. The moon seen by dinosaurs was not exactly the moon we see. The moon seen by early humans was not exactly the moon future civilizations may see. It is the same companion, but never perfectly the same. Like Earth, like us, like everything in the universe. And perhaps this is why the moon is such a good guide for a calm journey through cosmic time. It is close enough to feel familiar, far enough to feel mysterious, ancient enough to humble us, changing enough to remind us that nothing is truly fixed. It carries the scars of impact. It carries the memory of Theia. It carries the bright wound of Tycho. It carries the dust of new craters. It carries the silence of places no one has walked. And it carries, in its motion, the quiet rhythm of Earth's own story. When we began this journey, we imagined a flash on the moon, a sudden light above an ancient world. We imagined fragments leaving the lunar surface, some returning to the moon, some perhaps crossing toward Earth. We followed those pieces through space and into the atmosphere as soft lines of fire. We searched for their hidden traces in Earth's changing layers. We turned to Apollo samples and distant valleys. We looked beyond Tycho to the moon's greater role as a memory keeper. Then we traveled farther back, to the birth of the moon itself, when another world may have struck young Earth and filled the sky with glowing debris. And finally, we felt the moon's gentler influence. The tides, the slowing day, the steadying pull, the rhythms that continue beneath every night sky. Now, as we return to the present, the moon above us feels different. It is no longer only a pale disk. It is no longer only a background light for sleep. It is a world with a past, a world with scars, a world still being written. And yet, despite everything it has endured, it remains calm from where we are. It gives light without sound. It holds history without explanation. It watches Earth without judgment. It changes us without touching us. And this brings us toward the final part of the journey. Not another impact, not another crater, but the feeling that remains when we understand what the moon has been carrying all along. The feeling that the universe is vast, ancient, and still connected in quiet ways. The feeling that Earth and Moon are not separate stories, but 2 pages of the same book. And the feeling that tonight, when we look upward, we are seeing not only a world in the sky, but a memory made visible. And the feeling that tonight, when we look upward, we are seeing not only a world in the sky, but a memory made visible. The moon asks very little from us. It does not speak. It does not explain itself. It does not hurry across the heavens to be understood. It simply rises, night after night, age after age. It offers light to oceans, deserts, forests, mountains, rooftops, and sleeping faces. It gives the same quiet presence to every generation, even though every generation sees it from a different world. The ancient Earth saw it above warm seas and unfamiliar continents. Dinosaurs may have seen it above forests with no human voices. Early humans saw it above firelight, caves, rivers, and open plains. Sailors saw it reflected in dark water. Farmers saw it over fields. Astronomers saw it through glass. Astronauts saw it from close enough to touch its dust. And now we see it from a planet covered in cities, signals, satellites, and stories. But the moon itself remains calm. Not unchanged, not untouched, but calm. It carries a history too large for one night. It carries the memory of Theia, the ancient impact that may have helped bring it into being. It carries the scars of countless smaller collisions. It carries Tycho, bright and young in lunar time, with rays still reaching across its face. It carries the possibility that pieces of itself once crossed space and fell through Earth's sky as quiet fire. It carries the pull that moves our seas. It carries the slow exchange that lengthens Earth's days. It carries the rhythm of a relationship older than life on land, older than forests, older than the first eyes that ever looked upward. And yet from here, it looks simple. A pale circle, a crescent, a half-lit world. A familiar shape in the night. Perhaps that is part of its gift. The universe is often too large to hold in the mind all at once. Galaxies are too distant, nebulas too immense, cosmic time too deep. But the moon gives us something near, a doorway, a quiet place to begin. Through the moon, we can understand impact. Through impact, we can understand creation. Through creation, we can understand change. Through change, we can understand that even our peaceful world was shaped by forces far older and greater than ourselves. The moon makes the universe intimate. It brings deep time close enough to see from a bedroom window. It turns planetary science into moonlight. It turns ancient violence into a soft glow across the night. And perhaps that is why looking at it can feel so calming. The moon reminds us that even after collision, there can be balance. Even after fire, there can be silence. Even after fragments scatter, they can gather into something whole. Even after wounds are made, they can become part of beauty. Earth and moon have traveled together for billions of years. One blue and restless. One gray and remembering. One changing quickly. One preserving slowly. One covered in oceans and weather. One covered in dust and scars. They are different, but they belong to the same story. And so do we. For a brief moment in cosmic time, we are here beneath them. We are small creatures on a moving planet, looking up at an ancient companion. We live within rhythms that began long before us. The tide, the month, the length of the day, the turning of seasons, the soft rise of moonlight after sunset. We did not create these rhythms. We inherited them. They were waiting when life began to notice the sky. They will continue long after tonight has passed. There is peace in that. Not the peace of being unimportant, but the peace of belonging to something vast. The peace of knowing that our lives unfold inside a much older music. A music of gravity, light, dust, stone, and time. Tonight, if the moon is visible, you might look at it differently. You might notice that its calm is not emptiness. Its silence is not absence. Its beauty is not simple. It is a world shaped by impact. A companion born from ancient fire. A witness to Earth's changing face. A keeper of scars that our planet has hidden. A quiet archive above us. And somewhere on that surface, Tycho still shines. Its rays stretch across the moon like pale memories. Its crater holds the shape of a moment that ended long ago, but never fully disappeared. Perhaps some of its fragments return to Earth. Perhaps their traces are hidden in ancient layers. Perhaps some are lost forever, folded into the living planet beneath our feet. But the moon still holds the scar, and that is enough to remind us. The past is not always gone. Sometimes it is above us, silent, silver, waiting for us to look up. So as this journey comes to rest, imagine the moon rising slowly over a quiet horizon. No rush, no alarm, only light. It lifts above the edge of Earth, carrying billions of years in its calm face. Below it, oceans answer, clouds drift, continents sleep, cities dim. And somewhere, someone looks upward and feels, if only for a moment, connected to a story far older than the human world. The moon does not need to tell us everything. It only needs to be there. A soft reminder that the universe is not distant from us. It is around us, above us, beneath us, within the rhythms of the planet we call home. And in the quiet light of the moon, we can feel the vastness without fear. We can feel time without needing to hold all of it. We can feel small, but not alone. Because Earth is not alone. It has never been alone. It has moved through the dark with a companion. A scarred, silent, beautiful companion. A memory in the sky. And tonight, as the moon continues its ancient path, Earth turns gently beneath it. The tide rises. The night deepens. The old archive shines. And the story goes on, quietly, above us.